Good evening, Salam Alaikum. Welcome to tonight's episode of Talking Point. I'm your host, Syed Niaz Ahmed. With us today, we have a very eminent journalist, author and historian, Mr. Syed Badrul Ahsan. We are going to talk about Bangladesh 50 years on, but obviously there are a lot of other things that we will digress on. Welcome to the show, Mr. Syed Badrul Ahsan.
Thank you, sir. It's always good to be back on your program.
It's a great pleasure to honor you, to have you, and it's an honor that you have consented to be on our program so many times earlier too. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Last month, Bangladesh celebrated 50 years of its independence. Obviously, it was achieved at the cost of millions of lives and 9 months of guerrilla warfare. But once that was described as a bottomless basket, is now an emerging economy of the region. Whenever we discuss about something, some company, some country, some organization, with a lot of things on the credit side and there are a lot of things on the debit side. There is nothing like everything is golden, and obviously it depends on which standpoint you are looking at things from. Bangladesh has come a long way in 50 years. We have done very well financially, economically. There may be questions here and there, but overall the progress has been pretty amazing and impressive. We have become tailors to the world, shoemakers to the world, and peacemakers to the world. I understand that you have been writing recently on a number of topics, particularly Bangladesh and particularly on the subcontinent. How would you describe our journey over the last 50 years?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's first of all, I'd like to say that it's a miracle that people of my generation, people like myself, were still around to observe the 50th anniversary of the nation's liberation, of Bangladesh's liberation. Because when the country was liberated in 1971, I, for one, couldn't imagine that I would still be here in the year 2021 to savor the celebrations of that monumental event in our lives. Yes, as you pointed out in your opening statement, we have made good progress. Of course, in these 50 years, we have also these ups and downs in our political life. We have the Constitution, which has been amended so many times. We could have done with fewer amendments to the Constitution. We have had military rule and quasi-military rule, and we still harbor the hope that one day, sooner rather than later, the country will be home to full-fledged democracy, that Parliament will work according to the specifications, according to the desires of its people. Having said that, though, yes, we have made considerable progress in certain areas. For example, our social indicators, our GDP has been rising. Our remittances, which are the result of the hard work put in by our workers, our fellow Bengalis abroad, they work day and night, and they spend years earning for their families and earning for their countries. That has been a major contributor to our national economy. Then our garments industry, that has also been that's an important subject in the world. It's one of our major priorities in building the national economy. And the women in our country, women's empowerment has gone on apace, and we can today show the world the examples of women who are not only in the political arena of the country. Women form a very powerful force in the civil service, in the medical services, in teaching, even in business. Women entrepreneurs have come up over the last so many years.
Even in the army and security?
In the army, the police, the security agencies, And that is remarkable because contrary to what other people, many other people in the West, they tend to believe that Bangladesh is a conservative country. No, we are not a conservative country. We are a very liberal country. Despite all these hiccups that we have gone through in different ways, but the fact remains that our country is secular. It's secular in spirit. It's liberal in spirit, and which is one reason why Bangladesh is today looked upon as a good example before the world, and particularly in the South Asian subcontinent. If we compare Bangladesh with our neighbors, see, we are quite ahead, and that is what gives us pride. And of course, I might add one other point: the amount of writing, our writers, our poets that we have in Bangladesh. Their writings over the last 50 years have had a major contribution in strengthening and sustaining the cultural legacy of the country. So yes, we have, of course, as a nation, we are very proud of ourselves. But at the same time, we must also remember that it would not be quite proper to sit back, say, and in complacence and think that it is all right. It's still a long road ahead.
Right. In your this statement, you did mention that we have had democratic governments, and then we have quasi-democratic, and then we have had army rule. See, but it's like we have been jumping from one form of government to the others. You see, but Alhamdulillah, I mean, for last a decade or two, a decade or more, there's been a democratic government in power. And the army is in the barracks, and they are playing their vital role of keeping the security of the country, and also peacekeeping force for United Nations. See. But has this, from jumping from one system of government to the other for whatever reasons, see, has it dented the values of democracy in our country?
In a way, yes, because when a country moves from one system to another so rapidly, we began. When Bangladesh came into being, there was parliamentary government in force. Then it changed to a presidential system in 1975, January 1975, through the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution. This presidential system went on in the regimes of General Zia and General Ershad. Then we reverted again to the parliamentary system, which is there now. In between, we've had this system of caretaker government. So whenever we have caretaker governments, that is a very powerful sign that something is wrong with the political system of the country. So that caretaker system doesn't exist now. It has been abolished, as you know it, as we all know it. But in the last 50 years, these experimentation, I'd like to put it that way, if these things had not happened, if we had had we could have had a smooth transition, a smooth passage to the future, things would be much brighter. But again, see, despite everything, for example, from 1975 to 1996, we had a period when history was when those who governed the country, they had history in a state of denial. It's not just the political experimentation that we've gone through that has been our problem. Another big problem has been the systematic attempts by successive regimes in the country. I'm speaking of those who were there in power from 1975 to 1996, to put history on the back burner, to push history under the rug, to deny history. And that was very detrimental to the country.
Why do you think they did so? To project their own image, to project their own system of government, or they were against the whole idea of the...
It has basically been an attempt on the part of these people to highlight history in their own way. But the difficulty with dealing with history is that once people try to deny it, or people try to sidetrack it, that's where problems come in. For example, we went to war as a Bengali nation. We called ourselves a Bengali nation. We are still a Bengali nation. But then, after the assassination of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and the assassinations of the four national leaders, we saw systematically that Bengali nationalism was replaced by something called Bangladeshi nationalism, and that militated against our very ethos, our very political and cultural ethos. Because if we all recall, I mean, we were there in the 1960s. Although we went to school, we were still young, we were very young people. But then we recall that our struggle in the pre-1971 period was in defense of Bengali nationalism, the 6-point program, the movement for autonomy. All these portrayed us as Bengalis, and we fought the war as Bengalis. Muslims, Hindus, Christians, Buddhists, and everybody else, we were all Bengalis. Suddenly, after 1975, attempts were made to project us as Bangladeshis. Okay, then added to that was the fact that secularism was prized out of the constitution by dictatorial fiat. So secularism was gone, nationalism was affected, and what we had for 21 years was a complete turnaround. And the problem that arose from such a move was that an entire generation of young people who were born after 1975 or slightly before 1975, they grew up with convoluted, with mistaken perceptions of history. Now, when history is trifled with, see, I think the unfortunate fact for us in Bangladesh is that when we look at other countries, their histories, they also have their problems. For example, India, for example, Pakistan, for example, Turkey, they've had their problems. But one thing they've always held fast to is that they have never tampered with history. Kemal Atatürk, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Mahatma Gandhi, they have always been considered as the founders of their country.
Founding fathers.
Founding fathers. But in our country, systematic attempts were made to deny the role that Bangabandhu played in the liberation of the country, to deny the role of the Mujibnagar government. So, but again, having said all that, today I think we have hopefully turned back from that dark period, and we have carefully, happily, and cheerfully celebrated these 50 years of our independent existence. So I remain hopeful, because Bengalis have always been a struggling nation, and we always we have this struggle. We've always struggled. We always struggle for democratic rights.
Thank you, Brother Bhai. We need to take a break here, and when we come back, we'll pick up the thread and we'll start our journey again. Thank you. We'll be back again soon. Don't go away. Welcome back. Just before the break, we were talking to Dr. Syed Badrul Hasan about Bangladesh and the democratic and non-democratic governments that we have had there. Yes, sir. And the result of these two different types or three different types of governments, like caretaker and military and then economic. So, as I had pointed out, that has it dented the economic aspirations of our people, politicians and the public as well. Now, I would like to move to, we have always been talking about, for the last 2 years, I think it's about that developed country, developing countries, and probably least developed country. Where do we stand today? We have a lot of export, we have a lot of earning. It's coming through our exports, it's coming through the remittances, it's coming through our security forces working for United Nations, that is bringing in some money. But where do we stand? I mean, developed country, of course, we have got the income, right? But is that income earned by the government, is it trickling down to the masses? Are masses happier now if we have moved from one band to the other, that we are more developed than what we were about 5 years ago? What is the situation now?
Well, as a state, economically, we have certainly made progress. As we said earlier, GDP has been increasing, remittances have been increasing. exports, garment exports have been going up. So on that particular level, on the level of the state, a good lot of progress has been made. Much more progress can also be made, of course. And then again, in the villages, in the small towns, people live better off. They're better off today than they were before. People don't die of hunger anymore. Food production is adequate. People do not go hungry to bed. But all said and done, there's also the question of this inequality, this widening gap between rich and poor. So we are, as far as I see it, we are developing a society which is segmented into two different parts. One, a very elitist section of people who generally live in the towns and the cities of the country, and the other is in the villages. So we have this widening gap. We have developed a very rich group of people in the country, and then we have a very poor group of people in the country. So there must be a balance. And what is happening is the reason for this is that we have not been able to undertake those social measures which could ensure that people have a stable existence. For instance, if you look at the health sector is all focused in the cities, in the urban areas. In the villages, we have these Upazila health complexes, we have health complexes everywhere in the small towns, but then we don't have the kind of medical personnel, the doctors, the nurses, and other medical personnel.
We have the buildings, but not men.
Buildings, yes, not men. And the saddest part of the story is that transferred government doctors, the people who work in government hospitals, they are regularly transferred to different places, as it should be. But then we also hear the fact that once these doctors, I'm not saying all of them, but most of them, when they go to their new places of work, they feel very uncomfortable, and soon after joining, they start trying to get back to the city, and everybody wants to come back to Dhaka. So that is the health sector. Then we have this education system. We have a three-tier education system: the Bangla medium, the English medium, and the madrasa system. I think we need a system of education where all education is streamlined into one area. So that is also creating, in the education sector also, we are developing, the English, people who study the English medium schools, they tend to get a fair advantage, good advantage, because we have to deal with the world. But then we also need to focus on our Bengali medium schools, especially in the rural areas. We speak of our digital Bangladesh, digitalization, and as long as it does not touch every village and every upazila in the country, education will remain a far cry. See, if we look at the system of education, I have a complaint with the system of education also. The way we are producing successful candidates in the SSC exams, in the HSC exams, the way they are being produced, 98%, 97% of people emerge successful. Now, on what basis? Do they read books? Do they have a comprehensive syllabus to study from? So that when you and I were in school and college and university, we had to study an entire syllabus. And we remember we sat for all these full courses of exam at the school, at the matriculation level, at the HSC level. And now we don't have that. And only recently, SSC results were announced, and strangely, so many, about 98% of 93% of students who qualified, but then they didn't appear for English, they didn't appear for maths. So what kind of education are we promoting in the country? So all these problems of health, education, social welfare, we need a social security net for people.
Right. If we do not educate them, then we are not preparing them for their careers and the hard realities of life.
Yeah. So we are preparing our children for jobs. Fine.
Yes.
I mean, that's only.
Then again, the question is what jobs?
What jobs? If we believe that everybody has to go for IT education, everybody has to learn computer science. So what about other areas? For example, civil service. What about education? What about the teaching line? See,
Yep.
are we producing enough good teachers at the village level, at the college level? There are many colleges, there are many universities, private universities, even public universities,
Right.
where we are looking for teachers, qualified teachers. We don't have qualified teachers. So, I mean, in many of them.
But we also need vocational training institutes, like we need plumbers and electricians, we need
Yes.
drivers, you see.
Yes,
It's-
we don't need everybody to do masters, to do honors or masters. As you rightly say, we need plumbers, say, we need technicians, right? So vocational education.
It seems there is a lack of proper drivers in Bangladesh, because every day there is some accident and then the driver is absent and the helper is driving the truck or the bus.
Yes. And the helper is doing a beautiful job of running over people and killing them. And of course, we have these, and as soon as an accident happens, and as soon as a tragedy of any kind, not just road accident happens, we quickly hear that an inquiry commission has been formed. তদন্ত commission গঠিত হয়েছে। But that's not the point. The point is we need
তদন্ত
trained,
চলছে,
educated drivers.
তদন্ত চলছে।
And we have, and over the last 50 years, that has been a drawback over the last 50 years. We have the general public, the people of the country, have never been able to come across the results of an inquiry committee, of an inquiry commission. Okay? So these things need to be looked into, and it is in these areas that leadership matters, not just at the national level, but right down to the village level.
যুক্তরাজ্যের ভোট রেস্ট
True. You mentioned that there is a lot of hope and goodwill, and people are living good life in villages, see. But most of the villages, they look out of Bangladesh. They want to get a job anywhere in the Middle East, Far East, wherever. And then when they go abroad, they send money home, see. So that brings in the improvement in economy. You see, there's a knock-on effect. There are shops in the villages. They sell more, so they get things from the other shops are opening, other restaurants are opening in village areas. So that we cannot ignore, that people who are going abroad, they are sending money home, and that is causing this economic boom in rural areas.
True. Those people, as I said, I mean, these people are going out to countries in the Middle East, to South Asia, to Southeast Asia, to even countries in Europe like Italy and Greece. So they are sending money home. They are developing their families, are living better,
Right.
eating better, sleeping happier. That is there. So, but then there must be an additional approach to it. We need to create in the country. We need to have policies within the country which will create job opportunities for people. Like we can't expect everybody to go out. So people who leave the country, who are working abroad, they work very hard.
Again, they have to be properly qualified. I mean,
They have to be properly qualified, and I think we need to raise the level of efficiency, skills, education. Our people, they do very low-paying jobs, hard-working, low-paying jobs. We need to raise the bar so that we can send more educated people abroad. Other countries send people at the managerial level.
Right.
If Bangladeshis occupy managerial positions in hotels, restaurants, and other forms of industry in the Middle East,
there
that
are some here and there,
Some,
but not too many. Yes.
not too many. We would like Bangladeshi journalists to go to the Middle East, see, and edit, be part of Middle East news organizations. You've been there, so you know better.
I tell you that the some 26 years that I spent in Saudi Arabia, and we had 2 English dailies, there was only one Bangladeshi journalist.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there were very few.
Yeah.
And
So we need to reach out to the world
True,
in every way. See, first, within the country, we need to create job opportunities through good education within the country, so that we talk of brain drain. So keep the brains in the country, but then again, at the same time, ensure that our people go out. So it should be a two-way traffic.
Right.
In that way, the country can make further progress.
But how to block the brain drain? We have to provide them with good opportunities at home, because they want to learn more, they want to earn more.
Yes. Yes. If I mean, just saying that the brain drain is going on, and people, the Bengali young people, Bangladeshi young people should stay in the country, that is not good enough. They must have incentives. And I can, from patriotic zeal, I can tell somebody, stay in the country, serve the country. But then what do I give him in return?
True.
If he is in the country and then he sees that his classmate he has gone abroad, and the classmate has enriched himself, of course, through hard work. So naturally, he will feel very low. He will feel upset. He will feel that he has been having the wrong end of the stick. So I mean, this is where policymakers should come in, and this is where leadership, political leadership, we see at the executive level, the parliamentary level, that kind of leadership should be brought into play.
Yes, there is another interesting point that has come to my mind, is that sending our women folk to work as maids, this should not be done, particularly sending them to Middle East, because this causes a lot of problems, a lot of heartache, and this has not been a good experience. I have been always against that. I have been writing in Middle Eastern newspapers about it, but it seems that it has not worked. See, but anyway, we need to take a break here, and when we come back, we would like to recently and the economic situation in the region. Thank you very much. See you again after this break. Thank you. Welcome back. We have been talking to our guest today, Dr. Syed Badrul Hasan, and we'll take a step back. We'll go back to our subcontinent, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and hello.
Yes. Yes, sir.
We wanted to talk about today marks the death anniversary of Indian leader M.K. Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, who was assassinated at Birla House today. In your opinion, what do you think his main contribution to this was? Of course, independence and non-violent attitude, and compelling the English to leave just by being non-violent, no protestations. What do you think his greatest contribution was today, after 74 years of Indian independence? How do you see it?
Well, I see him in a number of ways. So, in the first place, of course, as you pointed out, can you hear me?
Yes.
As you pointed out, he was an apostle of non-violence, which principle has been followed by so many around the world. For example, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela. And then, the consistency with which he worked for Indian independence, that is remarkable, because he introduced a new political philosophy in the world, that of non-violence, that of accepting that of, in the face of the violence of the colonial power, he fought back with non-violence, with passive resistance. That is there. Then again, I feel that, when the moment of partition came in 1947, he was heartbroken, and he stayed away from all these celebrations of independence, Pakistan coming into being, India, as Nehru put it, India's tryst with destiny also took place. But he could, if he had
আপনারা
been a
দেখছেন
little more
সিলেটের
firm,
মাটি ও মানুষের
that,
সুখ দুঃখ
I
আর
think,
স্বপ্ন নিয়ে
could have
এনটিভির
made a
মায়ের
difference.
সিলেট
Of course,
সৌজন্যে
he was there instrumental
সোনালী
in
সুপারমার্কেট,
helping
ওরহাম
the Calcutta
ও
riots of
লজিস্টিক।
1946 and of course 1947
ভোজ্যখানা
to come to an end.
রেস্টুরেন্ট,
He traveled to
NKT,
Noakhali. Those roles were very important in his career. Then again, the very fact that he, after independence, he declined or he did not agree to take on a constitutional role. He did not want to be part of government but wanted to remain a figurehead. That is also a lesson that has placed him in the upper reaches of history. Yeah. So these are things. Of course, there are also controversies about him in the pre-partition period, for example, in relation to politics within the Congress Party, in relation to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, why Netaji had to leave India, the falling out between Netaji on the one side and Gandhi and Nehru on the other side. Those are also there. But yes, he remains a great man. He remains a great man. He's always been a great man. And it is particularly with reference to India as we see today, that is importance. That his role in history becomes even more important as India goes into a different mode under Hindutva nationalism. It is even all the more relevant that Gandhi's ideals be espoused again, be talked about again.
What is your assessment of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose? I mean, had he been alive, what he could have achieved?
Yes, he was a patriot par excellence, no question about it, and his dedication to the cause of independence remains profound, remains unmatched in any sense of the meaning. So had he been alive, I think he would have made a great leader. But then there are also questions, even now when we talk of Netaji.
Because you have written about him, so yep.
Yes, among Bengalis, for example, especially among Bengalis in Bangladesh and in West Bengal, he remains a revered figure for all the natural reasons. But there was also the question of why. See, in order to drive the British colonial power out of India, why did he have to seek the assistance of the Nazis in Germany and the Japanese imperialists in Tokyo? He met Hitler, he met Admiral Tojo. He was not impressed with either one of them. But this is one fact. But even then had...
But they say my enemy's enemy is my friend.
Yes, but then see, by that time, Hitler was already on his program of genocide in Europe, and the Japanese were busy committing genocide in Korea and China and in Southeast Asia as a whole. So like Netaji, I think we should study all aspects of the political careers. But beyond and above all these things, Netaji, had he been alive, the strangest thing is we still don't know whether he died or he was spirited away or he simply vanished, because we have been told that there was an air crash, in Taipei on the 18th of August. But then there's the other side of the report, which says that there was no air crash in Taipei on that day. So we don't know. Some people believe that he was taken away to the Soviet Union. But if that is true, if he was indeed taken away to the Soviet Union, why would he be taken away to the Soviet Union? So, and this big element of history is still around Netaji. But all we can say is, in losing Netaji, I think we've lost a great Indian personality. And perhaps if Netaji had been around, I'm just saying perhaps this partition of India would not have taken place, because he was an Indian in heart and soul. He was absolutely non-communal. He was secular. So he could have made a difference. We don't know, but he might have made a difference.
Yep. So more or less he had believed in the same principles like M.K. Gandhi.
Yes. I mean, only the methods differed.
Yes.
Gandhi believed in a gradual progression to independence, And Netaji was a radical. He wanted the British out, say, right then and there.
Right. We were talking about the principles and the ideals on which Bangladesh was established and achieved, and the struggle. There, in that part of that history, the Mujib government, or the government in exile that was established, and those 4 leaders were there. Hello?
Yes, yes.
Those 4 leaders were there, and it was possibly for a very short time, isn't it? One year or something, 1 year or a few months or something?
About 10 months.
Yes.
10 months.
So, what impact did it have on the independence in the absence of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib away in Pakistan? See, those 4 leaders did a lot, and obviously in 1975 they were killed in the prison. But after that, their contributions and their work has not been highlighted much, and their legacy has been seemed to have been lost.
Yes, that is where we have failed, I think, because see, one of the strengths of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur leadership is that he prepared a second tier of leaders who could take over from him, or who could do his work in his absence. So when he was arrested by the Pakistan Army on March 26, in the early hours of March 26, 1971, and flown to West Pakistan, this second tier of leaders, his colleagues, very qualified colleagues, Tajuddin Ahmad, Sayyid Nurul Islam, A.H.M. Kamruzaman, and M. Mansoor, they were there, and they did a brilliant job of giving shape to the government in Mujibnagar, which later came to be known as Mujibnagar, and they conducted the entire war in Bangabandhu's absence, but in his day. So when Bangladesh was liberated, it was a splendid job that these men did, and under their leadership, we had an entire guerrilla struggle going, 11 guerrilla sectors, and a civil administration. All these things were properly defined. But to your question about the legacy, yes, the history, as we know and as all of us believe in, history is always a comprehensive matter. See, history cannot be segmented. So when we say that people should not distort history, much of historical distortion has been there in Bangladesh in the years 1975 to 1996. So in the same way, history cannot be segmented, history cannot be selective. So when we talk of Bangladesh's liberation, or the struggle for Bangladesh, or the struggle for autonomy in the pre-1971 period, independence, liberation after 1971, we cannot ignore the contributions of the Mujibnagar government. See, not just the Mujibnagar government, the contributions of everybody who took part there, the civil servants, the military officers, the sector commanders, all the record of all these people, of all these people, of all these individuals who took part in the struggle, that has to be mentioned. See, when Tajuddin Ahmad formed the government in 1971, April 1971, that was a remarkable phase in our life. Why? Because it was for the first time in Bengali history that there was a Bengali government constituted by Bengalis and working for the liberation of Bengalis. So if when we observe the 50th anniversary of Bangladesh's liberation, we have just observed that anniversary, we're still observing it, we're still in that mood of celebration. I think these factors should also be brought in. Say, what if the Mujibnagar government were not there? What if Tajuddin, Nurul Islam, and all the others, they have also been captured and killed? See, the fact remains that because these men were there, these brilliant politicians were there, they're all good tacticians, Tajuddin and all his colleagues, they were there, and because of their policies, their programs, and their complete dedication to the Bengali cause, that Bangladesh was liberated. So if they had been killed, as I said, if they had been arrested or killed, the system would be different. So we need to see everything in perspective. We need to give honor to everybody who deserves it, everybody who took part in the Liberation War, even the youngest guerrilla war, these college students, school students, they streamed out of the villages, they went and joined the Liberation War. And nobody at that time, I recall, you will also of course recall, that we did not know how many months or how many years would elapse before Bangladesh would become independent. So despite all this uncertainty, so many thousands of people went to join the war, so many civil servants, so many of our Bengali diplomats abroad, they just turned their backs on the Pakistan Foreign Service and joined the war. So these happenings, say these stories must also be reflected in our history. So when in fact, a comprehensive history of the Bangladesh liberation struggle, beginning with the inspirational leadership of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and then being carried through by the Zimbabwe government and fulfilled through an arduous guerrilla war. All these things should be written down for future generations. That is the legacy we need to leave behind for our unborn generations of Bengalis.
Yeah, well, you said should be written. Who is going to do that?
Yes, that's it. I mean, when we need scholars. I mean, scholars. But then the scholars should be should not be partisan. Scholars should be objective. So, but if as a scholar, if a scholar goes for a partisan view of history, or if he intends to please one particular segment of politician, one particular political group, so he is not doing a fair job. I think, a scholar, an academic, a journalist, when he or she writes about our history of Bangladesh's liberation, the struggle for Bangladesh, all these factors should be coming in. So I think we need to do all that. See, all these, for example, the role of Shadin Bangla Betar, that qualifies for a separate book altogether. The role of all these artists who went and sang Shadin Bangla Betar and performed in plays, for example, programs like Jalladu Darbar, Choran Potro. So we know, I know, people of our generation know because we listen to these broadcasts on Shadin Bangla Betar. But have we left these? Are we leaving these stories behind for the young, who are young people today, who are in their 20s, who are in their 30s, and also for children who will be born later on? So if we don't do it, because that generation which went to the war, or which saw the war, that generation is dying out. See, we will be dying out soon. So that is why it's important that we leave this story behind. I mean, this story, this narrative.
That's a brilliant idea. That's a brilliant idea. Thank you. Thank you for being with us. But just one last question about how do you see this Ukraine situation? Very briefly.
Briefly is, yes, I think a lot of hullabaloo is being created around Ukraine. I think the West, especially the United States, should step back, and I think President Vladimir Putin should also give confidence to the world that he is not going to invade. And finally, the President of Ukraine himself, President Zelensky, he has said something very important.
Okay.
He has asked Russia to...
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Let good sense prevail and let peace, let give us a chance to peace. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you. And inshallah, we'll meet again some sunny day. Thank you, viewers, for being with us. We hope that you've enjoyed the show as much as we have. See you again after a couple of weeks. Same time, same channel.
Thank you, Niaz bhai.